actually by taking my research question. This research question was formulated at the beginning of the semester. First, we have to do a reading of 8 books. I read some books that really affected how I thought about city planning, how it should be. My research question is, how can new models of ownership ensure associated mixed-use quarter? This question has been popping up, and the question of ownership has been popping up while I was working and also during my studies, and it's very important to that, and I think it's quite relevant to Sao Paulo. It relates to our third topic that we're dealing with, which is urban living. By ownership, it's very important to know that for me, it's not only certain rights that you practice on the site, but they also entail a sense of duty and responsibility that you have towards the site. If I talk about how ownership can manifest itself spatially, well, walls is one way of that. And I think in Sao Paulo, with its strong segregation, the wall has another meaning other than marking territory. It becomes a defense line, a safety factor stemming from the fear from the other. Walls then become very interesting typologies to study in Sao Paulo. I worked with Bea on producing this typologies of wall. So on the first part of the analysis, I focused my attentions on issues of security, the rise of the private sector in the security business, and the need to build walls. Wall typologies took a major amount of the research, what they are now. So we did this research in which we looked at what the types of wall are like, tectonically you can say, what are the materials and what they enclose. But it was also interesting to see that people appropriate these walls and use them in different ways. So for example, in this wall, where you have a buffer zone between the house and the wall, you can have a garage. At another point where actually the whole enclave is lifted above the ground, 1.5 meters, you can have a terrace right next to the entrance and people can sit there and they can watch who's coming and who's going. So then, next for me is what they can become, these walls. Also our research extended to cover the gates, so the entrance points from which you can cross the wall. And this helped me develop 2 theses about the walls, which I later used. And this is my sub-questions. So how to capitalize on the enclave typology. So when 4 walls come together to create an enclave, I don't necessarily try to see the negative of that. I try to see the positive in it. So 2 things interest me. One of them is by the exclusion of one group from the enclave, at the gate you create an activity hub. So if I say, these people cannot go in here, around it, there would be an activity hub happening with all the people who are excluded from this enclave. Another thing that was quite interesting for me, we see that like the whole city as an enclave from the outside, and in Sao Paulo it's very evident if you look at the map of the city. Everything around is natural, and then you have the city, and then inside they try to create parks. So an enclave within a bigger enclave, which is the urban setting. So enclave within enclave was very interesting for me. And then comes how we connect the enclave in the inside to the outer surrounding. So for this I developed one diagram that I had of enclaves within enclaves, trying to add some programs to it and seeing what works with what and what are the connections that can happen and what can happen at the gate as well. So this is maybe the theoretical part behind my intervention and why I do things. So now we can go to the site, which I think was very well explained already. So it's here, we have the high income area here, the rest of the city, the low income area, the university, the crossing, very important for us, and the movie industry or the creative industry hub that is developing over here. Also, right here, we have Villa Lobos Park, which is one of the few places in the city where people actually interact. Also, we have the aspect of polycentrality that this area possesses. It can really work within all the centers in the city to be a new center within Sao Paulo. Also, the gay situation with all the highways coming in. You have a lot of suburbs. This is the whole map of Sao Paulo. You have a lot of suburbs happening around the northwest here. And this is the major highway which brings them in. So it's the first point where you really reach metropolitan Sao Paulo, and you can make use of the public transport and the centrality of the city and everything metropolitan, you can say. So then came the seminar. When we finished the analysis, we had the point of coming up with an idea. The first thing what we do. My first idea for the seat was connecting people on basis of economic incentive. So for me, this is the strongest adhesive that can get people together. So I was thinking of some sort of informal stock exchange market. There is a lot of interest in investing in the informal city. But somehow this doesn't materialize into something more because the lack of guarantees. And for me, I wanted to work with something that would help guarantee this. After talking and getting feedback from many people, it became evident that to have this, you have to have a certain sense of trust. And my seed was about move from being an informal to actually doing an informal stock exchange to building this trust. And I started to work with my seed, which is about the simple setback. Very simple idea of creating a setback in the walls. So these walls around the side here, we have a lot of walls, 1 kilometer wall with nothing, just going straight with the street. And I also made this model where I tried to show my idea of the setback, a 10 meter by 10 meter setback, where activities can happen and people can approach it. I went on to define certain activities that are distinctive of Sao Paulo, and which I think all social strata would be interested in Sao Paulo. So this is about my seed and how it started. And then came the development part of the whole site. So how the seed is going to grow into something more. And this is where also the research question of ownership came back into play. And my main idea was how to divide the plots of the site. So I start with this very small seeds, and yeah, one thing that I failed to mention is I position the seeds at specific points that relate to train stations already existing, bus stops, entrances from the creative district, as well as from Villa Lobos and the university. So these points here, what I do, my first intervention, the seed, the very small one, 10 by 10, is around here. You can perhaps see it from how big the plots are. It's here, 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 and here. And okay. So the main idea was to offer as a very diverse plot sizes as well as plot ratios. So this is how I see it being cut up and sold up, starting from the seeds. What this does is it allows as much, a very wide variety of users to be able to actually own on the site. So not plots that are all the same size, having the same price, or perhaps the only thing that will be different about them if it's facing the river or not. No, like how the ratios of the site and how big they are, giving people the ability to own in the site. So it's not only a bottom-up thing where like individual users can own and then decide what to do with the place, but there are also bigger interventions like these ones here, which I actually think they should be done by the state or by a bigger developer. So here I have a transportation hub, which links to the train station and the bus stop. Here I have an IT campus, and here is a factory workshop area, business park. And then I started to develop this diagram. I have a legend here for reading it. For the different typologies that I kind of have. So enclaves all over the site. And then I started to work with these typologies and try to say not only what the activities are, but who owns these different things. So I have the activity and who owns them. And at the edge of each enclave, for people to enter. So the edge condition was also very important to me. So for example, at this point, where an agricultural kind of cooperative would meet with a workshop or a social housing, I would have a small restaurant or some sort of posts where street vendors can come and put their commodities to be sold. And yes, this proposal will focus on the process of transforming the market into a lively mixed-use space. The process of allocating land and property for development is of major interest. In this proposal, the question of ownership and the upkeep of public space is what I aim to tackle. A series of small interventions that coming together in order to create a functioning whole. I developed this collage as well of kind of my idea of how I see the bigger market whole developing from these small interventions to creating a bigger whole. I see this site as an adapter linking the formal to the informal to create something new in which this polarity of rich and poor, formal, informal will not be the main topic of debate. Economic incentive is the adhesive that keeps the system working, a lubricant for social interaction. The potential of investing by the rich and the potential of financing for the poor will take form in the informal stock exchange, which I hope to implement in the central spaces in the site, which are these bigger interventions. It's an idea that, for me, is how the original stock exchange developed. So just a group of people or people who need financing get together and they can offer their business for sharing, and people can invest in it. There's already like this idea sort of developed from a reading I had of Sao Paulo, in which I found that the formal stock exchange is really interested in investing in the favelas. So the favelas, they don't have a formal real estate business. There is no ownership, registration or anything. It just happens between friends and family, and it really relies on trust as the main lubricant holding everything together, the main adhesive holding everything together. So my idea was, okay, like we have real estate, but we also have this interest in investing in businesses. So a business operating in the favela, there would be no way for it to get financing if it goes to a bank and say, hey, I'm doing this business in the favela, I want some money. So my idea was working on this, how do we get the formal market to invest in the informal developing industry?
What is the tax? What is the sales tax in the city? And what's the income tax in Brazil?
She just left.
But you're Brazilian, you know that. What is the percentage of income tax?
Oh, she's not.
No. You know, that's where the tax incentives comes from. Well, again, you see, the banks wanting to make intervention in favelas is understandable, because, and the government too, taxing incentive in general as a free trade city type of deal within a wall. There are places, well, kind of Hong Kong is kind of like that, and Singapore is of course the same. And it's a quite small city after all, and it's very densely populated. And I think there are, so far projects has been very reasonable. Now, reasonable is good, but do you want to win? Do you?
Do I want
Do you want to win this competition?
this competition?
Do you?
It's only $50,000.
I'm just asking because it's really two different strategies to think about. Come up with something reasonable and potentially good versus making it win. Now, during my time, Hong Kong Peak was such a project, and it created very strong architect. Now, that's one strategy. So let's talk about that strategy. Because if there is 250 other entries, you do this, you're not going to win. But you already know. So, like I said, the project is so immense. What they are asking is so immense. I don't blame you for feeling defeated. So, but if you change your mind to be, my objective is to win this thing. And so people will look at my idea. And not to be complacent or, remain within reasonable inaction. I think Peter has created an opportunity for you, and it's a challenging opportunity that is being presented here. So I suggest this, I think, and it's absolutely connected to the economy and trade and exchange, taxing, ownership, especially the real estate ownership, and that kind of a credit society with the mortgages that creates tremendous amount of cash. So in other words, if you can commodify that development, banks probably get a couple $100 million for that because they can start issuing a bond saying Favelas bond, and that's what we bankers do. So, some ways that's I guess that wouldn't be a winning scheme. But I think today, I found British exit very interesting because I think in some ways British exit gives them, England, another chance to act very selfishly. And then what I mean is that,
Not done yet.
right, but it does release them from the regulations and trade regulations of what the European Union and the countries that participate in it have to do. So, basically England is trying to create what they're good at, which is really free trade economy. And with less regulations and a looser banking and a lending for money, which would actually gas up this whole development. So I'm being also practical, but and translate that into the architectural vision. And again, my comment on.
If I can say something, I'm not really an advocate of free trade. I think what I'm trying to do, if I try to say what I'm doing, is to use free market logic against itself somehow, or like to play with it in order to ensure actually more equality rather than.
Well, if you look at Venice or Amsterdam, those two cities were built now. Venice had a free market, and then Zagreb connection, and that made them very wealthy city. And definitely. So
Here's the capitalist. I'm the socialist. We were talking about the pockets last time, I remember. And there was this, I think we were also talking about, is it now a defense line? Is it open to the interior? Can it be a gate? And if it is a gate, then how does it have to be worked out as a penetrating device? And I think if then I try to be capitalistic, why isn't these the places then where the high-rises are, to show to the surrounding that these are the spots where the entrances are to the new place where the new market and the new whatever comes to exist. Regarding the competition, I always think that if I would be the jury member, I'm looking for something that stays in my mind for as long as possible. And this is, I think all the projects that I have seen have a great potential, but they have to make themselves